Hey, and welcome to Creepy Quill's BookTube channel. Today we're going to be doing a February reading wrap-up. Hey y'all, thanks for joining me. I'm Creepy Quills and this is my assistant Skeleton Steve. I am also going to include my January reading wrap up. I did not read that many books in January, but that's because one of the books was It. Thank you. So, swallowed too much of that. This is wine. So first up, I have Scream Sight by Justina Ireland. This is a book about a 9th grader named Sabrina who wants to be a reporter, an investigative reporter, and she's doing a piece for an internship for the Daily Sun. She decides to do one on Scream Sight. This is a website where people are uploading videos for screams to win a prize. But to her, one of the videos looks a bit too real, and one of the girls goes missing. So it sounded really, really good. Unfortunately, it did fall flat for me. It was kind of it was repetitive, it dragged a little bit in the middle, and the ending was a bit underwhelming for me. And also the main character, I liked her, but she felt more like a side character. She even admits it in the book, like she's not that great of an investigator. So it's kind of hard to just go along with her kind of thing. I got a little frustrated with her. But I also want to keep in mind, she's in 9th grade. So that was a little bit of a struggle for me personally. I'm like, I get it, you're in 9th grade, but come on, girl. So unfortunately, yeah, I didn't really care for this. I think I gave it like 2 stars. It wasn't horrible, but like, it just wasn't for me. So next up, I have Bone Chiller by Graham McNamee. Now, this is a story about a boy named Danny. On his way home, he is attacked by a creature, and he doesn't go to the hospital for it. It's not like he broke bone, blood gushed everywhere. He's like, did this even really happen? Kind of thing. And then he realizes he was actually marked by this creature, so to speak, and the creature is now stalking him. This takes place in Canada. If you're looking for a kind of snowy, chilly winter kind of read kind of thing, I would recommend this one. I gave it a solid 3. So he does have sort of 3 friends he seeks help from to try to help him save himself from this creature. One of them is Ash, who is a boxer and also an Indian from the Ojibwa tribe. Ojibwa, I think is how they spelled it. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. She was a cool character. And then you have the 2 brothers, Howie and Pike. Howie is really smart. He's the younger brother. And then it kind of reminds me of Sam and Dean. And then the older brother, Pike, he is, you kind of don't like him at the beginning, but at the same time, he's such a great older brother. Like, he loves his little brother. You can't help but like him. So the characters were great. The pacing was good. It dragged a tad in the middle, but it ended with a bang. So I would recommend this author. This is my 2nd book reading from him. I preferred Beyond, but this was still a good creature fic. Okay, so these next 2 books, I was actually sick in February, so I reached for Kindle Unlimited free books that did not require a lot of thinking because my brain wasn't doing the whole A to B to C thing, 3-dimensional, not my thing. So of course I reached for some good old horror. Now Quilt, have you ever seen the movie Candyman? If you have, let me know. I love that movie. The Quilt gave me Candyman and Dangerous Minds vibes, but it was good. And it's about a woman named Annalise. She's a teacher, square. I hate to bring Crybaby into this, but square drapes. She's a square, so to speak. And one of her top students has stopped coming to class, named Jaden, and he lives in the projects. So everybody kind of gives up on him, but she's like, no, I'm going to go down there and find out why he's not coming to school. And it turns out it's because one of his paths to school is out because of a fire, and he would have to take another way to school, which involves him passing by something of an urban legend called the Halloween Man. And it kind of takes on from there. That's kind of what the story is. And so she braves the projects and ultimately comes face to face with the Halloween Man. I loved this book. I think the only The only downfall for me is I kind of wanted more from the bad guy, but didn't get it. But I don't think the author wanted me to, so that's his right. But there was a torture scene in here that involved spiders, and I do not have spiders. Don't bother me. I don't have arachnophobia. Spiders, snakes, I'm fine. But if you want a good scare and you are afraid of spiders, then I recommend this book. There is a torture scene with spiders that I won't forget. So glad I read this one. So this next book gave me Friday the 13th kind of vibes. This is one about a small group of teenagers who go to this old camp where a bunch of campers and counselors were killed. And of course, there is a killer that is still there. And the teenagers are very one-dimensional. Like, you're not going to get a lot of depth, but there is one that kind of has a little bit more depth, and you kind of get, that's probably means that it's more, hey, this is the survivor possibly girl, survivor girl possibly. But I can't complain about this book because you get what you came for. Like, it is pure entertainment, slasher horror. It's not going to be life-changing, deep meaning. I'm lucky I got a little bit of a backstory about the bad guy. So it's kind of hard to rate because it is what it is. You can't buy an apple and then complain it tastes like an apple. Like, why doesn't this apple taste like a banana? So the death scenes the imagery was good. There's even one where it's very perverted death scene in which these two people die. And the image will forever be in my mind. And and then not much else. Just if you're looking for something like that, like a B horror flick starring Tori Spelling, then read it. It was fun. Now, do you love a great conspiracy theory or a great unsolved mystery? So the next book I read, and I'm sorry if I say this word wrong, was Death of Nine Dyatlov Pass incident. So this tragedy actually takes place in 1959 Russia, where a group of 10 hikers go to do a trek in the Ural Mountains from their college and stuff. And they are never seen alive again, save one. One of them, Yuri Yudin, actually went with them to a certain point, but because of a health condition with his nerves that flared up, he could not further the trek, so he actually stayed back. So he survived. So, but this is just a tragedy. It's really, their bodies were found, but it was the condition in which their bodies were found in that only furthered the mystery. Two of them, their eyes were missing, their ribs were crushed. The tent was cut from the inside, but the buttons were fine. They weren't fully clothed. And there was also radiation found on their clothing. And that's what I initially heard from the documentary and stuff. And so you could kind of guess at to all the conspiracy theories that happened, even still to this day. So with the radiation, people went as far as aliens. And then there's also a local tribe that was around there. Someone said that maybe they disrupted an ancient burial site and they were killed. Some people said avalanche, their ribs were crushed, they fled from the tent quickly, not fully clothed. But the author did a really good job, Anderson, of listing the theories and listing why that is not the case. Because I actually went into it seeing the documentary, having in my mind it was either an avalanche or I thought maybe they stumbled upon something with the Russian government they weren't supposed to see, which would explain the radiation, and they were killed. So everybody has all these type of theories. Now, trigger warning, there is autopsy photos in this book, so if that bothers you, then I would, you could just skip that part if you want, but I would still read it. But there are autopsy photos in here, and I also like how the author at the beginning kind of lets you get to know the people first. It's a very interesting read, and one thing that really got me too, Yuri Yudin, the one that ended up not going on the trek, he died actually in only 2013. So he died not that long ago, but of course it turns out this affected him the rest of his life. He always has wondered what happened to his friends. He's quoted as saying to, all my life I wanted to be the 10th. And when I read that in the book, I kind of had to stop for a second, just because I can't imagine the survivor's guilt he must have had. There's no way to explain it. That's my heart goes out to him. He actually asked to be buried next in the cemetery along with some of his friends. But that's just terrible that he never really got a full answer. And it turns out, after reading the book, there's still some stuff that is being withheld by the government, apparently. And I found out too, the hikers kept journals and diaries along their trek, so you got to read some of that. But I'm going to read another book on this incident, and I found out today, I don't know if it's true, I'm going to look into it, but they have reopened the case. Newsflash, they have reopened the case. I hope it's true. I really do. But yeah, if you're at all interested in conspiracy theories and unsolved mysteries, that one is a really, really good one. Although, sorry, of course my battery's about to die. We're right when I'm getting to it, one of the longest ones. So I feel like everybody kind of knows the synopsis for this, but this is about a boy named Bill. He has a stuttering problem when he's a kid, but his little brother George, poor Georgie, his body is missing. He's slash killed when he's little. And he has a group of friends. They realize that more kids are going missing and no one is really doing anything about it. And it has to do around this being called Pennywise, who takes the form of a clown. And then it delves into them battling them when they're children and then having to go back when they're adults, coming back to Maine, all save one, to battle him again. And as a horror reader, I actually went into this looking most forward to the gory scenes, the creepy scenes, the scary scenes, of course. But I got all that, and I also wanted to know more about Pennywise, because I know the book offers that, whereas the movies don't. So I definitely got all that. And so I recommend this book if you want to know more about Pennywise, and that ending was cool. But I actually loved more the symbolism of Pennywise, if that makes sense. I love philosophy and psychology and symbolism. And trigger warning, there are hate crimes in this. There's homophobia, there's the N-word, the F-word, because there's racism. But whenever stuff happens in this town, it's like Pennywise is always creeping in the background, like a little creeper that he is. And it's just a symbolism of, and I think it's because that stuff can really happen. And I think that's what makes it more scary, because it does happen. Because unfortunately, homophobia and racism do exist. And it's just when that stuff happens in this town, you just have this force of evil that's staring in the background. And I think that really got to me, just because the realism of it. And then just it touched me because these kids can battle it. Like, it has to do with innocence battling evil. And, you know, how these children form this bond. Like, you can't imagine, it's hard to pick a favorite character of the kids because I can't imagine one without the other. And these kids just form these bond to battle Pennywise, and then they have to do it again when they're older. And it has to do with, you know, when you're older, having to keep in touch with your innocence, so to speak, you know, that innocence that you have when you're a child. You know, we lose that as we get older, so it's hard to battle this evil. And I think that's what got me most about the book, and not actually Pennywise. Like, not, I mean, more the symbolism of him, but not the gore. It wasn't about the gore for me, or the creepiness, or the horror of it. It was more about just the symbolism and the childhood and the innocence versus hate. So because of that, I recommend this book to non-horror readers, because I think you should read it. And I can see why it's a classic. Now, I didn't give it a 5-star because I did feel it could have been a little bit shorter. And if the length of this book does bother you, like, big books don't bug me. If it's a good book, I could read a 2,000-page book. It doesn't bother me. The length does bother you. The audiobook was pretty good. Do the audiobook, like, switch back in between forth. But yeah, I did feel it could have been a little bit shorter. And there is also a minor spoiler. There is an underage sex scene in here that I think the book could have done without. I was actually warned about it by a friend, and I didn't think it was going to be as detailed as it was. And I just had to skip it. I skimmed it a little bit, and then I tried listening to it, and I was like, it was just, I couldn't do it. And I understand why Stephen King did it, at least according to what people say why he did it. But he could have done something else, you know? So with the book. So, like I said, like, you could just skip that part though. But again, glad I read this. This is definitely going to be a reread. I love this book. I can see why it's a classic. It's not underrated. You should definitely read it, even you non-horror fans. Okay, well, that's it for my wrap up today, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know if you've read any of these books or what you thought of them, or if you have any recommendations for me. All right, so I will see you next time. Bye.